Hi, this is Marcus from Saberproject Shop, and today I want to share some news with you about the Saberproject Shop Generation 2 series sabers. So the announcement that I want to make is that you can now get my sabers not only installed with my chassis core, but also get them empty. So you can install your Saberproject Generation 2 saber yourself, or if you already have one of my sabers, you can swap the chassis core. And how this works, I'm going to show you now. So to summarize, you have a standardized chassis with 3 different parts that you need to make it fit to your specific saber, and these parts are specific for each saber, although some of these sabers share the same switch position and thus also the same part. So for my Generation 2 sabers, I have a standardized chassis, which you can see here, and you need different 3D printed parts to make it fit to the specific saber, because these parts are specific for each saber. We have the tray for the switch PCB, and in this case, this tray is for the Tiro, the Zephyr, Legatus, and Animos. We have the top part of the switch PCB, which holds the PCB in place. In this case, it is for the Tiro and for the Zephyr. And we have the part that holds the chassis itself in place. And this is for Tiro and Zephyr. So I quickly wanted to show you why we are doing this. So on the Legatus, which I have unscrewed here, you see that the position of the switches is a little higher up than for the Zephyr. So you can also notice this on the 3D printed parts. You see the Legatus one on the right and the Tiro and Zephyr one on the left, which happen to be the same. So to correctly assemble it, we take our chassis and we take the PCB tray and we push the PCB through the tray from the bottom, from here like this, and then we seat the PCB on here, so this acts a little like a slide, so you can slide the PCB forth and back. Then we place this part into the chassis and see that we do not pinch any wires in the process. Then push it down, still slides back and forth. We take the top part, and we can see here there's a construction where the PCB is kept in place. So we place it exactly like this and push up the PCB. Push it down so it is flush with the surface of the chassis. We rotate it and take our part that is used to keep the chassis in place with the chassis retention screw and just push it in like this. So to put this inside the saber, we take our Zephyr and unscrew the bottom half. Then we take our Allen key, which we also use to tighten the blade retention screw, and unscrew the chassis retention screw. Like this is totally enough. It's important that the screw does not stick into the hilt. So down there you see the switch mounts, and when I push here you see the switch plunger coming up, which is spring loaded. And you also notice on the chassis itself there is a channel here. So when you push your chassis in, you don't do it like this because it will not work. You have to rotate it so that the mounts can go through the channel here. You push it all the way in. Be careful, because sometimes the 3D printed part is coming up a little, and just push it down, especially at this place here. You push it all the way in, then rotate it until the switches are aligned with the recharge port and with the rest of the elements. You take your Allen key again and you screw down your chassis retention screw until it's flush with the rest of the hilt. And then you can start up the saber and put on the bottom half of the saber again. So if we want to swap the chassis between the sabers now, we first have to take it out again of the Zephyr. So unscrew the bottom half, take your Allen key and unscrew the chassis retention screw, then cut the power, then rotate the chassis left and carefully pull it out. So first thing we do is taking off the top part from the PCB, and the PCB we can lift it up. We can take some tweezers and push up the 3D printed part here and push the PCB through back like this. And then for the chassis retention part, we take our tweezers again and push some wires aside and push onto the part from the top. So it comes out here. So pushing this out works with the newer versions of my chassis, so it might be possible that you do not have this hole inside this chassis here, so you have to use some needle nose pliers or some tweezers to pull this part out. So we want to change all these parts for the ones for the Patronus. In this case we have to also change the tray, because it has a different height in comparison to the Patronus, because the Patronus is a little slimmer, which means that with the same inner diameter, the switches stick a little more inside the saber. So it is also said here, this is for the Patronus, and we feed the switched PCB through the hole in this part here and put it on the slide and push this part into the chassis like this, and then seat the top part here, slide the PCB up and down until it sits correctly like this, and then take the bottom part again and push it in, and then unscrew the bottom part of the Patronus and screw out the chassis retention screw. And from this perspective you can see that the switches on the Patronus on the left are sticking a little more into the hilt than of the Zephyr on the right, which is why we need a different tray. And then we take our chassis and seat it and push it in like we've done before with the Zephyr, and rotate it to the right until switch and research port are aligned. Then screw back in the chassis retention screw. Then power the saber up. And then take the bottom half of the saber and screw it back on. So this is how swapping the chassis core between different Generation 2 sabers work. As I've said before, now you can get your sabers empty and install them yourself, or use one of my saber cores and swap between the hilts, so you don't have to buy fully installed sabers anymore. You can just swap the chassis whenever you want and using it in different hilts. If you do have any questions, just contact me at shop@saberproject.de or write me a message on Instagram or on Facebook. I am Marcus from Saberproject Shop. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.